All right, so my name is Amy Bandy Taylor. I am a senior Copilot technical specialist in the education team here at Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for just over 2 years now. Um, on the slide there, we are using a PowerPoint live presentation. So for those of you who are remote and have access to the screen, you can actually click on those links, and they are live links and will open. So I have my email address there, my LinkedIn. If you would like to connect, I'm happy to connect with folks. I share a lot of information about what's coming to Microsoft, especially in EDU, and all of the productivity tools. So please feel free to connect with me. And then lastly on the slide there, I have a link to my Linktree account where I share a lot of resources, especially in education regarding a lot of the productivity tools. So Teams Phone, Viva, and especially Copilot. So if you're interested in any of those things, please feel free to subscribe to my Linktree and you'll get notified anytime I add a new link. All right, let's look at OneDrive. So OneDrive is our storage platform where you can access your files from just about anywhere. All of your files are stored in one place, whether you're accessing them from your mobile device or your laptop computer or from Teams. They're all stored in the same place, and so it's easy to access, edit, and organize those files. You can also share and collaborate with files really easily through OneDrive, and you can share with multiple people or single people. There's a lot of sharing capabilities. We'll talk about those. And then lastly, your files are secure. They're backed up to the cloud. And so you can access those files offline on your computer, but make sure that you back them up to the cloud in order to keep them secure and protected. OneDrive, there's three ways to access OneDrive, and I'm going to show you each of these ways when we get into the demo. But one is to go to Microsoft 365.com or Office.com. When you log in there, you'll see OneDrive in the waffle. I think Stephanie went over the waffle yesterday, and we'll talk about that when we get into the demo. I laugh at the term waffle, but it does look like a waffle. So. And then we also have OneDrive.com. So we actually have a website where you can go to access your files, as well as Teams. So Teams, there is a OneDrive app that you can install on the left-hand rail and be able to access your OneDrive files directly inside of Teams. And then we also have the OneDrive app that you can install on your mobile device. And then you can also install OneDrive directly in your computer, your PC, and access those files directly from your Explorer folder. The 3-line icon, the hamburger. Yes, some of my colleagues call that the hamburger menu as well. Too much food this early in the morning. I'm hungry. Yeah, Gordon's hungry too. Okay, so the OneDrive home experience. This is what it looks like. Rob, the meatball menu. Man, you guys are really making me hungry. So this is the OneDrive home menu. So this is what it looks like, where you can access files that are for you. You can also add new files, and there's a whole host of file types that can be added from that menu, as well as new folders. You have a separate tab just for shared files, so you can quickly access any file that was shared with you from your team members directly inside of OneDrive. There's a favorite menus or folder so that you can favorite different files and be able to access them really quickly. I love that feature because I'm always losing files. And then people, there's a people menu that you can look at files by specific people that you might be working on. So that's a little bit easier. Let me see if I can increase like that. Does that help? I'm going to share these files when we're done, so you'll be able to go back and look. And I'm going to go through each one of these sections when I open up my my demo tenant as well. So I'm sorry that if they're hard to see. It's a very busy slide. And then the last two are, there's a meetings tab. So I love this tab too, because you can actually access the files that were shared during meetings directly inside of OneDrive. It makes it so much easier to find those files. And then lastly, the quick access. So you can quickly access files that are stored in your teams, the teams that you're a member of. So you can access all of those files inside of OneDrive as well. Let me see, I'll try and increase this one too. So this is the shared view. When you look at the menu item that says shared, you'll see files that are shared directly with you, as well as files that you have shared. So if you're wondering whether or not you shared a particular file with a group of people, you can actually go here and look at the By You tab and see what files you have shared out and who you shared them with, making that easier for you to manage that in the future. And then you can also see the activity of when things were shared. There's like dates of when things were shared, when they were edited, and things like that. So that's a nice view. I love that view, being able to go back and look and see what files I've shared with people, and then being able to edit that. So if I want to remove that access, I can do that directly there. And then this is the people view. I love this view too. So let me zoom that in a little bit. My computer will. There we go. So in the people view, you can actually see thumbnails of the files that have been shared with you and the people that have shared them with you, as well as being able to pin those files. So that helps keep that organized and keep those important files right there at the top. And then you can see the different file types. You can store a lot of different file types within OneDrive. So, your Word and your PowerPoints and your Excel files, as well as PDF files and other files types too. The meetings view. This is another view that I absolutely love. Ooh, sorry about that. My computer is, yeah, there we go. All right, so this is the meetings view. So you can see upcoming meetings, and you can see any files that have already been shared with that meeting prior to it happening, which is great, so that you can review information before you attend those meetings. You can see the people who are invited to the meetings, as well as meeting recordings. So if you're looking to go back and watch a video, you can access those videos directly in OneDrive as well. And then past meetings as well. You can go back and review the information, content, whether they're files or the recording of the meeting. You can access all of that from OneDrive. Do these documents expire from the meetings tab? If there is an expiration retention policy with the meeting recording, most places, most customers that I've talked to do have that retention policy for recordings, where they do get deleted after, usually it's around 90 days. So yeah, that documents, I don't usually see documents having a retention policy and being deleted. Usually it's just that recording, but something to check if your organization has that policy or not. Kayla, you should be able to access the video for this session when it's over. I believe that Barrett is posting them so that you can access that. As long as you're a University of Alabama user, you should be able to access those and not provide any information. All right. OneDrive in Teams. We're gonna show you this when we get to my demo tenant. But there is an app that you can install inside of Teams. So it's a OneDrive app that you can pin right to your navigation bar on the side of Teams, and then access all of your files and content that's stored in OneDrive. And it looks exactly the same as it does in the web version, right there inside of Teams. Just making that easier to access that content, especially for those of us who are in Teams all day long. Makes it a lot easier. Oop, jump too fast. The favorites bar, I love this as well. This keeps me organized right here. Being able to favorite files and have them located in one place so that I can go back to them quickly and find them without losing any content. Thank you, Michael, for adding that clarification about the retention policy. Search and filter, there's another feature in OneDrive. We have the ability to search for your files, by name, in either the top there that you see at the top bar. Here, let me get my laser. So right here at the top, you can search for using keywords here at the top. There's also a keyword search right down here. And then lastly, you can filter This is one of my favorite features to use, is this filter menu, where if I'm looking for a PowerPoint presentation, I just click the PowerPoint button and all of my PowerPoints appear in that list. And then I can search through that list a little quicker than I could if every file were in that list. So search and filter, very important feature. And then the create feature. So this is a fairly new feature where you can actually create, when you click on the add new button, you'll get this list of all of the different file types that we have. And you can actually see all of the templates that are available to you as well, so that you can quickly build content right there inside of OneDrive using all of these different templates that we have. This is a great new feature. I love this. This is probably, of all of the features, my most favorite feature. This was recently released, I think earlier this year, where you can actually color code your folders in OneDrive. So it's really easy to do. If you just right click on a folder, you'll get this the menu there, and there's an option down at the bottom called folder color, and then you can select from that menu of colors there. So you can actually color code all of your folders and find them super easily. I love this feature, and I love color coding things. So that's a nice new addition. Being able to restore deleted files. This I know has always been such a challenge for me. I delete files accidentally. With OneDrive, you can go back and restore those files from your recycle bin as long as it's within that 30-day period. The recycle bin is generally deleted after 30 days. So if you catch it in time, you can restore those files yourself from that recycle bin. All right. Sharing files. So this is probably one of the most important pieces of OneDrive, or sharing files, period. This is the piece that people get most confused about. So we'll spend a little bit of time discussing the different ways that you can share files and remove that access as well. So when you're sharing a file, you're going to get the option of how you want to share that, whether it's with a group of users, a single person, whether you want people to be able to edit that document or only view the document. And you'll even have the option of whether you'll allow people to download that file so that they can save their own copy or not. So when you click the share button, this is the menu that you'll see. And this came from the University of North Carolina, so you see UNC Health there. So it depends on your organization and what default is selected when you share a file. We generally recommend that you default to specific people, so that you're not sharing with everyone in your organization. A lot of companies disable the ability for these anyone with the link options, because those allow that file to be shared with anyone, including external users. So most companies disable that file sharing capability, but you can share with everybody in your organization. The one thing I want you to know about sharing with everyone in your organization, creating one of those links, is that even if you do that, users don't have access to that content unless they actually click on the link. So once you click the link, then it activates that sharing access, that it authenticates the person, and then they have access to that content until you remove it. But if somebody doesn't actually click that link, they will not find that file if they go searching for it, or especially with Copilot being such a big tool that's being used right now. People will not find that information in Copilot unless they actually click that link in order to authenticate their access. So something to keep in mind. I know this security is a very important topic these days, and you want to make sure that you are only sharing content with those that need access. So I don't recommend sharing with everyone, but I do recommend sharing with specific people. And then you have the option to allow editing. So if you want them to edit the file or you want them to only have view only access, they can open that file in review mode only if you toggle that. And then lastly, you can actually block the download. So if you toggle that switch on, users will not be able to download a copy. They'll just be able to access the copy that you've provided for them within your OneDrive. So those are your options when sharing. Be very mindful when you're sharing files of who you're sharing them with and what sort of link you are creating for your content. So managing access, after you shared a file, if you want to go back and review who has access to your file or even remove that person or people, you can do that in the manage access. So generally, if you go back to that sharing button inside of OneDrive or in your file, you'll have an option to manage access. And from there, you can see exactly who has access to your file, and you can remove users from there as well. Direct access is another way to share a file. So if you click the plus button there and add a person's email address or select their name, that would provide them direct access to your file. And there's the menu that appears when you press the plus button where you can put the name of the user, and then you can change those options. With OneDrive, and the person who created the file is the owner of that file. So you can share access to other people and they become managers of that file because they can edit that content. And then if you want to stop sharing, there is a stop sharing link that will remove all links that you've created for that folder. Ashley, those are great questions. And some of those questions depend on your organization. So if an owner does leave, if they've shared the file, you will still be able to access that file. But in a lot of cases, organizations, after a person leaves, if they've been gone for 90 days or sometimes up to a year, then their content does get removed from the system. In that case, then you will not have access to that file anymore. So if an owner does leave, I would suggest or recommend ensuring that you've made a copy of that file in your own personal OneDrive so that you don't lose access if it's an important file. But definitely something to, and I believe after I'm finished with my presentation, Michael is going to talk a little bit about University of Alabama's preferred storage method and maybe some of the policies too. So stick around for that. Sharing a file to teams. This is a really great feature. When you right click on a file, you'll actually have the ability to move to. So you can actually move those files between folders if you want to, or you can move them to a Teams document repository if you want to. So you'll actually have the ability to see your teams listed there and then select which team you want to move that file to. So that's a great feature as well if you need to move around files. That's a great way to use case if people are leaving, if an owner is leaving, they can move their files to a Teams document repository so that your team doesn't lose access. I think we're almost done. So PC folder backup. So you can back up your folders that are on your computer to your OneDrive. So if you install the OneDrive app on your desktop, and then you can back up. So any file that you save can automatically be saved to OneDrive, thus backing up those files so that you never lose them. They'll be backed up to the cloud, and you'll always have access to them in OneDrive. So if you don't have this turned on, maybe something to consider if you want to make sure that your files are always stored in OneDrive. I love this feature. I know that when I create a new Word document or PowerPoint and I save it, it automatically saves to OneDrive and it's in the cloud, and I know that I won't lose access. All right, and then my last slide here. These are some tips and advice for using OneDrive. So we actually have a Microsoft OneDrive blog that you can go to, and they post articles about new features or how to do different things in OneDrive, syncing your files and things like that. And then I also added a link here for how to back up your folders with OneDrive so that you we'll never lose access to those files and have them backed up to the cloud. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my demo tenant now. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to post those. We're going to look at now how to access OneDrive in a few different places, and some of the features that I talked about on those slides that were really, really small. You'll hopefully be able to see this better now. So right now in my demo tenant, I am logged into office.com. I love going to office.com because I can quickly access all of my apps, including OneDrive, directly from here. Right now I'm in the Home tab, so I'm at the very top button here. So I can see all of the different files that I have access to. You can access those quickly from here, but you can also go to the OneDrive app, which is listed right here. So I'm going to click OneDrive for Business. And so now here you see this is OneDrive in office.com. So I can access all of my files from here. So you can see all my files, some folders that I have listed here. I can go to my shared tab. These are going to be all files that have been shared with me. So here's a recording that was shared with me by Megan. So I can actually see who shared that with me. I can look at the what files I have shared with other folks. So loop files, if you're using loop, your loop files will be stored in your OneDrive. And if you share them with others, you'll be able to see that here. You see the ability to filter. This is one of my favorite filter features. Is I can just quickly click one of those buttons and have a list of all that particular file type. And then I have a filter option over here to filter by a user's name if I'm looking for something specific. Then you have your option to jump into your favorites. So again, I love this feature because I can quickly access files that maybe I'm working on that are current files that I'm working on. I can save them as favorites and then jump to them here. And then to remove a file from a favorites, I didn't mean to click that. Go back here. You simply click this unselect the star, and that removes it from your favorites menu. So you can easily manage those directly from here. I keep clicking that. My mouse is click happy. Then I talked about the recycle bin. So being able to restore those files, you just simply click them and then click the restore button, and that will send them right back to wherever it came from. So you can actually see the original location right here. And so it'll send that file right back. Then down at the bottom here, you have the option to browse files by people. So you can see Megan had shared this file with me. And so I can have all of my files that have been shared with me. I can see directly right here who shared them. So a lot of times somebody will say, oh, I shared that file with you. I don't know where it is. So I jump in here, find their name, and then find that file. And then you have the option to browse files by meetings. So you can quickly see, here's a meeting that I had on September 23rd, and here's the recording for that meeting. And then I can see who was in that meeting right here at the bottom. And so these are past meetings. If I had meetings that were upcoming meetings that people had shared files with me, I would see that here as well. And then I have the ability to filter files by media too. So all of my images or video files will appear here. And then down at the bottom here, you see this quick access section. This is where you can access files that are shared with you in Teams. So this here is a list of teams that I am a member of. And so the landing demo docs this is actually a SharePoint site that I am a member of. And so I can see the name of the SharePoint site or team, whichever the case would be, and then the name of the folder that contains these documents. And then here, this little button here, I can actually click this and browse other repositories. So if I want to go to Contoso brand assets, I can change directories and see what's in the various libraries that I might have access to. And so as I was saying earlier, one of the features that you can do is move a file from your OneDrive to a team or SharePoint site. And so that's easy to do with the meatball menu, right, Rob? So if I click on the three dots or meatball menu, as some people call that, I have the option to move to. And so when I click the move to link there, it'll actually open up a menu where I can select if I want to move it to a different folder within my OneDrive, or I can use this quick access menu and send this to a folder or repository in SharePoint, or to a Teams. Nick, it's called an ellipsis. Thanks, Nick. So that's how you can move files between SharePoint or Teams or your own personal OneDrive. Other ways that you can access OneDrive, if I click this, and actually you can do it from, let me go back to this home menu. Where did I see that? Let me go back to files. I lost that link. There is a link that you can jump to. Maybe it's here. Sorry, I lost what I was going to show you. Okay, never mind. I'm going to just go to it manually. So if I go here to the OneDrive app, and you can get to that at OneDrive.com, and you will notice that the SharePoint or the URL will change to yourname-my.sharepoint.com. So all of the files in OneDrive are actually stored in SharePoint. SharePoint is our repository for all files. So don't be confused by when you see the word SharePoint. It's just the back end of where those files are stored. But this is your OneDrive, and you'll notice that it looks exactly the same as it does in the Office.com OneDrive, the OneDrive in the web, and then you can also access it from Teams. Let's let Teams load. Let's give that a second. Come on. All right. And so within Teams, on my left rail here, if I go down here, you see I have the OneDrive app. And so if I click on OneDrive, it's going to look exactly the same as it does in those other applications. So I can access it from my Office.com homepage, the OneDrive web URL, so website, or Teams. Or you also have access to it in your Teams, your mobile devices, if you want to install the app there as well. So OneDrive can be accessed just about anywhere that you need it to be. So you'll never lose access to your files. They're always right there at your fingertips. All right. Any questions? Any burning questions that you've been wanting to ask? Please go ahead and throw those in the chat. If not, I'm going to hand it over to Michael, who's going to talk to you more about your storage options at the University of Alabama.
Thanks, Amy. Anybody have any questions for Amy before I get started?
I will stick around for a little while, Michael. So if people want to put anything in the chat, I'll be here to answer them. And after the session is over.
So I wanted to talk about a couple things that Amy touched on and provide a little bit more clarification or clarity about kind of how OIT suggests that people work with their files. As Amy said, when you go into OneDrive and you start clicking around, you suddenly wind up at something that says My SharePoint, and you're like, I thought it was OneDrive, but everything really is kind of SharePoint, and people kind of get confused as to, well, when am I in OneDrive? When do I use team storage? When do I use SharePoint? So Barrett actually made a web page here, and maybe we can paste that in the link to that in the chat. But we kind of put together some guidance around when we believe you should use OneDrive versus team storage versus SharePoint, kind of what use cases drive you where. And that's probably a little hard to read on the screen, so I've made a little bit of a bigger presentation to talk about some of this. So when should we use these various things? So when should we use OneDrive? Someone asked in the chat kind of, what happens when the owner of OneDrive content leaves? So we really look at OneDrive as kind of the place for me to share my files when I'm working on something. Files that are ongoing work, they're not ready to share. They don't really need to be preserved outside of like my own interaction with them. I don't need the department to have them after I leave. They are just something that I'm working on. The other things that you use OneDrive for, as Amy indicated, you can use the OneDrive client to synchronize your desktop documents, pictures on your Windows machine. You can also use the OneDrive client on your Mac to synchronize files as well. So it's great for backing up your desktop. That way, when your desktop support comes and gets you a new machine because your warranty is expired and you sign into OneDrive, all your content's there. You don't have to worry about, did I copy that file that I was just working on my desktop yesterday? Do I have the latest version? It's in OneDrive. It'll sync there. It's all there. You can also use the sharing links to collect files from external entities. There's a file request feature, and you can also share specific files with individuals, as Amy demoed. So these files are really stored in OneDrive because I'm the one who's working on them there. It's in my OneDrive. It's my content. An example of this might be, it's getting time to do budget requests in OIT. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull a report out of a web-based software that we use that has all of the assets that we track for OIT. And I'm going to kind of extract warranty information and purchase price and figure out what we need to budget for desktop replacements. I'm going to wind up sharing that eventually, but not the raw data that I'm downloading to put this report together. I'm going to share the report, but when I send it to Kathy, she doesn't need all of the background data behind it, right? She needs what are we planning on and what are our needs? So I might download that file, save it in my OneDrive, do all the manipulation of cleaning stuff up, and then I'm going to use that to create something else. So the other place that we see people storing a lot of files are in Teams, either through uploading them during a meeting as an attachment or just sharing files in the course of a discussion. We look at Teams sort of as an ad hoc group. It might be an interdepartmental project, a group that might have lab workers in it, a group that has some people from my team, some people from the communications team. It's a place that I'm going to store a file that's related to a specific project or initiative that we're working on. Some teams, I shouldn't use teams in that way. Some departments are also using this to store things that we want to preserve for the department, right? It goes beyond, it's something that's just my file that I create as the course of my work. It's something that I'm going to put together and the department is going to need it beyond my access to it. So this may be, I've now pulled that file down, I've got it in my OneDrive to crunch all the numbers and everything, and now I'm going to put together a budget proposal. And this is just what my area of OIT needs. So I'm going to collaborate with some other folks in my team. I'm going to work with Jim Embry in desktop and Andy Rainey with systems and a couple other people, and we might have a team put together to kind of collaborate on this. I'll put together a spreadsheet and put my ideas in it and ask them to go in and maybe collaboratively co-edit with me. And they're going to put their numbers in, and we're kind of going to work as a group on that. And that file is something that we're going to want to keep kind of longer term, right? That's not just kind of the number crunching that I did in the background. That's not just my private piece of work. That's something that we collaborated on. We're going to want to keep. We're going to look at next year. So when we say, well, when we're looking at this year's budget, we kind of missed this. Let's grab last year's and pull it forward and that kind of thing. So we kind of summarize that as, these files are stored in Teams when the need for access is collaborative or project or initiative focused, right? And some departments are stopping there. They're saying, okay, that's as far as we want to get. We're going to use a team for our department, and stuff that we need to keep long-term for our department, we're going to keep in Teams. And that's fine. There is a third option that kind of goes beyond that, and that's SharePoint. SharePoint, some people find intimidating. SharePoint can be a lot of things, or it can be a little thing. As we've seen so far, SharePoint is OneDrive is SharePoint. It's just a small section of SharePoint. So you can work with OIT to create kind of a departmental SharePoint site, and this becomes more of the long-term document repository of things that are essential for our department to continue, right? This is, I've put together my budget plan for my area of OIT, and Taylor Anderson's put together his for security, and Zach Potts has put together his for EDAS, and now we're going to meet as OIT leadership and put together the OIT budget, right? And we're going to put together the budget presentation, and those are files that are beyond just a team within OIT. They're definitely beyond an individual. There are things that we want to keep like always and forever. So we might create, and we actually don't because we haven't gone that far, but we might create a kind of OIT SharePoint site that's our official repository for stuff like that. Why would we want to do that? Why not just use a team? One of the things that we found kind of trying to do this a little simpler using teams is that SharePoint's much richer in terms of its permissions to allow us to do access by group, so that I'll give a counter example in Teams, and I pick on Kathy a lot for this, and it's not her fault because this is what we told her to do. But Kathy was working on those budget spreadsheets, and she needed to send all of the supervisors in OIT the budget for their area for this year and give them budget reports on how they were, burning through those budgets and that kind of thing. So first she created those files in her OneDrive, and then she shared them out from her OneDrive. And we said, no. We know we told you not to, not to just email them. We said use OneDrive, but that's not really what we meant. We did, but that's not what we should have meant. That ties it all to her ownership. So if Kathy up and quit on us, all those files are in her OneDrive, and someone's got to go and download those and upload those, or get an admin to go in and figure out some way to move that content. So we said, let's put it in Teams. So Kathy went in, and we've got a supervisor, an OIT supervisor team in Teams. And inside that team, there are private channels for all the different supervisors for their budget reports. And that worked okay. And then we said, well, we've got a student assistant who's going to help put those budget reports together. So now to access those private channels, we have to make the student assistant a member of our supervisors team, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it. So probably the way we should have gone about doing this on the third try was to create a SharePoint site, and that way we could give granular permissions to say, all right, we want these people who are in this group of OIT student assistants to be able to upload and write to this. We want these supervisors who are in this group of desktop support supervisors to be able to access just this folder within there. So it gives us a lot more granularity in terms of how we want to do those permissions. In some areas, that may not matter. In other areas, particularly around finance, HR, things with a lot of confidential information, that may matter. So the way we look at SharePoint is these files are in SharePoint because an entire group needs easy access. These are files that Kathy Rainey doesn't need. The person who's doing all of the budgeting for OIT, the business officer for OIT, needs. So these are files that my position needs, not me as a person needs. These are files that long-term my department can't afford to lose. I'm not watching the chat, so I don't know if there are any questions. So give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. We've got several other FAQs and resources on that webpage that we can put in the chat. But that's kind of the high level suggestion when people come to OIT and say, I've got all these different options from Microsoft about where do I store my files? I'm confused. I don't know when to use OneDrive. You can use OneDrive for ad hoc sharing of something that you're working on. But if it's going to be shared with a large group of people and you want to preserve it, and it becomes something that's more an artifact than a working document, then that's when we suggest moving to collaborating in teams and doing that sharing instead of kind of the ad hoc OneDrive sharing. Any questions or comments? One other thing I'm going to show, just because I'm in here and I have the microphone and I have the presentation, so I'm going to keep doing it, is yes. I don't want to confuse SharePoint with things like OnBase, right? OnBase is the document management system for the University of Alabama, right? But if you're using something for your department and you're not using OnBase for that, then that's really where we would look at that. Sure. The other thing I wanted to show is the OneDrive client. I know Amy talked some about it. I've got a Mac, but it works very similar in Windows. It's a lot more than just being able to synchronize your desktop and your My Documents folder to OneDrive. It also gives you access direct through the Finder window in a Mac or Explorer in a PC to those OneDrive files wherever you are, wherever you're logged into that OneDrive client. So above and beyond just backing up the local stuff, if I'm the kind of person who's used to going file open and browsing through stuff on my computer, then the OneDrive client really lets me continue to do that. Everything that's in OneDrive shows up in Finder as though it was on my computer. I just, on the left-hand side here, instead of desktop or documents or downloads, I've got OneDrive, the University of Alabama over here, and this is my OneDrive content. Everything that we see in OneDrive here, oops, get the little Teams thing up there. Everything that we see in OneDrive here under My Files, 2024 documentation, annual reporting, Microsoft, etc. We say 2024 annual reporting. A couple other things that are in here because of the way it syncs, like app data is not showing up in there, but all of that stuff is available to me here. Likewise, if there are teams that I want to do this with, I can have a Teams file content show up in my OneDrive as well. So Amy showed in the OneDrive web interface, you've got under quick access, you've got some Teams stuff over here. If I want this dedicated instance project to show up in OneDrive on my computer, I can click this sync button here, and it's going to ask me if I want to do some stuff, and I'm going to say yes. And a couple minutes later, not instantaneous, I will see over here a dedicated instance folder show up, and I'll be able to directly in OneDrive on my computer access those files that are in the Teams files instance for that team. Works pretty much the same way on a PC. It's kind of that if you're used to using that file explorer experience, it gives you just that same thing without having to go through the web-based experience. Now the web-based one's a little richer. Those folder colors that I also love, and you can see that I've used them extensively in the My Files section. Don't show up in Explorer. So you do lose some of that richness, but you gain access to those files in a way that's more familiar to you. If you've got something that runs on your computer and regularly uploads a file or saves a copy of a file, you can have that saved to something that's mapped to OneDrive, and then you're saving all of those things to OneDrive automatically. I think that's all the content that I've got. Any questions?